Chris Speaks here today with Bryan Newell, who is a former military man, retired from the Army, getting ready to run for Congress against the incumbent Mike Rodgers. Here with me today. Mike, how are you? Bryan, how are you, man?
I'm doing all right. Just don't call me Mike.
Yeah, it's just kind of flowed off the tongue there. My bad about that. Tell me a little bit about yourself first. You're retired from the Army?
Yes, I did 20 years active duty and 2 years reserve and National Guard. Like right at the beginning and right after high school. You know,
Okay.
and then
Well,
I went active duty and had a I did my term. I got out after five. I'm honorable discharge. Went to college. Then that's when I was ready for college and opened up a business, auto collision repair business, and then after I sold the business, I ended up moving to Hawaii, and that's
oh,
where I lived until 9/11. And when 9/11 hit, my patriotic duty stepped in, and I went back into service.
very,
Instead
very,
of
very
my retirement.
honorable. What was your MOS?
My first 5 years was in the infantry, and then my last stint was aviation. My last, 15 years is aviation.
Okay, infantry in the aviation. Um, so tell me, how long have you lived in the third congressional district?
Oh, well, once I retired, that was back in 2018. When I retired from the service, I moved to. It's kind of weird. I was born in Anniston, so I was born in this district, but
Okay.
I was born into poverty. So my biological mother gave me up for adoption, and my parents that I have, they raised me in Winston County, and so that's where I was raised at. And then when I retired, um, I had a project management job up in Virginia, and that I had to leave that. I had to leave that opportunity so I could take care of my parents down here. My dad had Parkinson's. My mom, she had about every part replaced on her. And my dad was falling a lot. Fell in the pond and stuff like that. So it wasn't safe for them being out there in the middle of the boonies. So I found a place that was close to his sister. She lived in Trussville, and I bought a house here in Moody, and started working so I could take care of them.
Okay. So,
And now that my dad has passed, it gave me this opportunity to be able to do this.
so what exactly got you decided to run for this race?
Well, it was a there was seeds planted in my head. The good Lord planted these seeds, and placed a dream in my head. The seed was planted years ago when I was in the service. I was doing an IG complaint with fraud, waste, and abuse,
Hmm.
and needless to say, it didn't get nowhere. And somebody had mentioned, I'd have to be a congressman for anything to happen.
Yeah.
And that was back in what is that, about 2009, maybe something like that. And so I was like, okay, nothing ever thought about it. Years later, the dream was placed in my head, didn't really think much about it. I thought about it a little bit, but I mean, it was like, well, there's nothing I can do. I'm still in the service. And then when I got out, there was a lot of things placed in my pathway, um, that got me back closer with the Lord. He's always been there around me. He's always been following me up. But there was that time that I was offered a job out of nowhere. Never looked at the company. Never Googled them or nothing. And all of a sudden, and my name wasn't even out there on the websites or nothing, but they found me and they offered me a job. So when I got that job, it was a lot of alone time in a van. And I happened to, it was just that one radio um, thing that I heard, and it got me into searching and searching, and kept on going. And before you know it, it's just everything just led one thing to another, and I ended up getting back closer to where I needed to be spiritually. And when you do that, that's when you're able to hear what you're needing to do. You know, when you have
So
a
your faith is
personal
very important to
relationship
you.
spiritually, you're able to hear what he wants you to do. So this is what he wanted me to do. He told me it was time. So I didn't hesitate. Well, I guess you could say I hesitated because I looked on on either side of instead of straight in front of me, and each time I did, the door closed, and I was like, okay, I'm following what you telling me to do, and it's been a haul ever since. I've been going ever since. So when the good Lord speaks to you, you don't hesitate.
So your faith is very important to you.
Yes, don't get me wrong. I am not the righteous kind of guy. I'm not a Bible puncher out there, but I have strict faith in my beliefs, and you're not going to sway it one way or another.
Hmm. So tell me, Brian gets elected to Congress. What is the first piece of legislation he's going to push for?
What is the first piece of legislation that I'll be pushing for? Okay, you've got two pieces of legislation that are already out there in Congress that has not been brought out on the floor for a vote. All right. Those two pieces are term limits and the Pelosi Act. All right.
Hey,
Now,
let me ask you one question before you get into it. Why is it that you hear so many Republicans promise for term limits and then never back through with it?
because their pinnacle of achievement is not what they do for the country or what they do for the state or what they do for the district. Their pinnacle of achievement, because they've achieved nothing before other than a other than a certificate on the daggum wall. Their pinnacle of achievement is how long they can stay in Congress, and money talks. That's why I'm pushing for the Pelosi Act. It keeps the elected officials from being able to prosper by investing in companies that's going to benefit from a bill.
Oh, wow. I like that.
That was legislation that was pushed forward, what, maybe 2 or 3 years ago, and it never has reached the House floor for a vote. Because if they voted on it, and the people who would not be voting on it or didn't vote or voted no on it, 9 times out of 10, they would be shown to be the guys who's benefiting from that. All right, investing in companies is benefiting from a bill that because it's insider trading. I mean, more or
That's
less,
really
it's
good.
it's legalized insider trading. They know what bill is going to get passed. They know what companies are going to be affected by these bills. They know what's going on. So, needless to say, they have a lot of them have little investment firms, or they have their little law firm, and they do investing and stuff like that, or they do investing on the side. That's the legal parts of it. But the illegal parts are when they're lawyers. They know how to escape the system. My understanding is the reason they don't get charged with insider trading, for one reason, um, if you're not in office, let's just say you are Nancy Pelosi's husband, for example, right? The reason he doesn't get charged with insider trading is because he listed it in information in a newspaper, and a newspaper nobody hardly reads. But then once that article was written that certain companies would benefit from this bill being passed, well, guess what? Now it's common knowledge. So then you can't be arrested for that process.
Wow. I was not aware of that at all.
So needless to say, a lot of these politicians are using that to make a lot of money. Have you ever understood why they make only a certain amount of money for their pay wise, but yet after a couple of terms they're multimillionaires?
Well, That when
Now,
you said that,
understanding they have other, other wives, they have law firms, they own businesses. Most of them are law firms, but they own other businesses, and that's understandable. But it's ridiculous on how many of them are investing large assets of money. Now, I'm not saying that mine is. I haven't really looked into it. I think he owns a, if I'm not mistaken, he owns a law firm and a car lot or something like that. One of those new car lots or whatever. That's my understanding. But I'm not saying that he is, but I mean, it's obvious that, I mean, that he's been in for a long time, and it's obvious that he would have that type of money anyway.
it's when you said that, it clicked with me. Now it answers the question. A couple years ago, Rick Scott spent $100 million of his own money to run for a seat that pays $175,000 a year. Now, why on earth would somebody spend $100 million to make 175? So, I mean
Well,
that.
I don't have $100 million to spend, but I would be willing to spend it on trying to fix the problems that are plaguing our nation today. There's a lot of them. And and what I see, and I see so much of it, is there is no individuals out. Well, it's limited, but there's not enough of them of of people that are in Congress that's got leadership abilities, teamwork abilities, or ever worked outside of the political system. And guess what? You do not get when you go straight from high school into college, into law school, right into politics. Guess what you miss? You miss what it's like to work for a blue collar job. You miss what it's like to have management skills. You miss what it takes to have teamwork skills. You miss all of those qualities, and you are handicapped as a legislator up there in Congress, and you also fail at being able to represent the individuals that are inside your district because you lose contact. When you move up there permanently for the past 20 years, you lose connection with the people that you are supposed to be representing. When you do not have a voice for people to come and talk to you, then you lose that connection with the people of your district. So if you go onto my website at Bryan, Bryan, the number 4 Congress, you can click on issues and you can see everything that I'm running on, and the voice is toward the very end. And you can read the voice or your voice, and you can understand what I'm trying to propose to where everybody's got a voice in Congress through me.
Brian, what do you think? You being an ex-military man, what do you think the biggest threat to our nation is right now?
Well, first of all, there's a multitude of things. All right, when these social issues, do you think that these radical groups? It doesn't matter if it's the anti-Israel or if it's LGBTQ or if it's any other social issue that pops up. Do you think these are just people that oh, I feel offended, I'm just going to go out there and cause havoc? No, they are sponsored, they are paid. Now, who are they paid by? Well, I guarantee you there's a bunch of multimillionaires that's going around supporting a lot of these, but there's also organizations of propaganda through Russia, through China. All these, or you probably North Korea too. They probably have all these little propaganda networks going and funding somehow to these organizations that are destroying our country from within. Abraham Lincoln in 18 in the when he was running, I want to say it was in Congress, he said we did not have to worry about a country coming across the seas and destroying our nation. We had to worry about the ones from inside. So, needless to say, it was projected back then the only way that somebody would destroy our nation was from within. And that was back in the 1800s. So I want to say it was between 1830 and 1850, somewhere right in there, is when he said he had that speech and he put that out there. So I'm letting people know it's, listen to your history. It's out there.
Even
And that's what's
Khrushchev said
happening
that.
now. It's because of the social networks and everything else. So there's countries that can just eat us up, eat us alive with the propaganda and pushing things out there and having paid people to go out there and stir up the news and stir up the social networks and destroy our nation from within. Because look at this last bill that Mike Rodgers signed off on. It was the NDAA. All right. What does the NDAA have? Okay, well, let's read off on some of the non-conservative things the NDAA brings. Okay, let me pull it up right here. Okay, here's the first one. All right, funding for abortion travel for service members. All right, that was the one that Senator Tuberville was holding off on. He would not. He was using that one. He did not want that to go through. All right. How about funding for sex reassignment surgeries for service members? All right. Let me ask
Now,
you
did
this.
they pass? Because I thought I read last night that those was the two things that they ended up leaving out in order to get it to go through.
Well, if it got changed, it got changed. But what I'm
Yeah, I
saying
think
is
it got changed at the last moment because I
these
was about to
people
write a.
sign. What I'm saying is these congressmen, all but one, which was Barry Moore, all of those congressmen signed off on this. This is not conservative at all. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's not even Rhino stuff right there.
Okay, here we
That's
go.
as
Here we
far as
go.
left as you can
Here's
get.
the other one. How about funding to teach service members CRT and DEI? Okay. So Alabama, we don't even have the schools teaching CRT. Florida doesn't have the schools teaching CRT. So they're just like, well, guess what? We'll just get the service members and teach them CRT. Come on, man. Critical race theory. You think that's going to benefit our military any way whatsoever? Holy crap. Okay, how about an automatic 1 year reauthorization of FISA with no reforms, allowing continued weaponizing of the government through April of 2025? So, you remember how the FISA was used to spy on Donald Trump?
Yes.
Remember all that stuff? Well, guess what? Here you go. Here's the FISA again, spying on Americans as it is. So you're going to reauthorize that for another year. Holy crap, that's real conservative there. All right. How about limited limited efforts to deter the growing influence and military capabilities of China? All right. How about provides at least 600 million to Ukraine? Holy
600 million.
600 million. All right. How about climate change initiative funding? All right. That's real good. You
What does that
know,
even mean?
okay. Climate change. All right. I want people to understand this. Climate change has been happening ever since the stinking ice age. All right. Ever since the stuff froze, well, guess what? Years go on and stuff melts. We had a second ice age, I guess. And guess what? It's been warming up ever since. And guess what? There was no industrial revolution then. But yet
Well,
they want to
actually,
say
makes me feel free called
it's caused by man and all this other stuff. You are smoking crack. The world is trying to get back to where it was before that happened. It is trying to get back to where it was before that happened. And so don't be going off there and telling me that the climate change initiative so we can get more electric cars out there. Well, guess what? They ain't selling. All right. That's why Ford and everybody is backed off of building factories for damn electric cars and trucks. All right. Because they have an over allotment of vehicles that just have not sold.
You
So,
remember what
needless
they
to
used to call it? They used to call it global warming. And then we had
yes.
a cooling period there for a while, and they couldn't
Right.
explain this away, so they had to start to call it climate change now.
Yeah. Well, see, climate change is a never ending hole of money going into it. It's like a bucket that has no bottom. It's just it's an endless well, and
Do you remember that UN
they
report
could
back in
just keep dumping
1989?
money into it.
You remember that UN report back in 1989 that said if we didn't change, whatever, the polar caps would be melted by the year 2000 and we'd all be
Right.
underwater.
Yeah, 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 yeah. They forgot about they forgot to talk about evaporation and lakes and
I'm sorry, I
yeah.
didn't mean to cut you
You
off and
haven't
get you off
seen
on
our
topic.
you haven't seen back then they were talking about buying what was it oceanside property in Arizona. Remember that?
Yes, I remember that. You talked about these groups a while ago. And first, let me say this right here. I never thought I would see people walking around it's with a flag that said "Gays for Palestine." So somebody obviously has to be paying for that. But what has happened in this country that we have the, the I was going to say it. We have like 99% of the country caving to 0.5% of the population, and the transgenders have all the rights over which bathroom they're going to. They're pushing their sexualization of our children with this drag queen story hour. When is it? When are we going to say enough's enough?
Well, when you get enough people in Congress that's got enough balls to stand up to it, first of all. Number two, that was willing to speak out to it, saying, this is stupid as hell. All right. Number two is when you start bringing the Lord back into your home. Well, that's a problem. I remember there was that politician that was running for the governor of California. I can't remember his name right offhand, but he was talking about the crime in those areas and stuff like that. And he was talking about it was absence from the father from the home, and that could be a part of those issues. But I was looking at it and I was like, you know what? It's not just the absence of a father, because you could have a dad that's sitting at the home that's an alcoholic, a drug addict, and that ain't doing you a damn bit of good.
Right.
But it's the absence of the heavenly father in the home. And guess what? That's what happens. These people have, you know, I've always held this with my daughter. Show me your friends, I'll show you your future. Well, that's the same thing here. As you've got people that have friends that have no idea who the good Lord is, that has no idea and has never brought Jesus into their lives. So guess what? Things like this happens. You know, I'm not saying that all Christians are are not breaking laws or anything like that. I don't say that at all. I'm just saying you can see the evidence of not having that in a home, and you see the results right now.
Did you
When
ever
you're
foresee this? I never imagined that I would be sitting here watching some of this stuff that's taking place today.
No, it's ridiculous. The things that people allowed to happen. These people that are marching against the Israel. I'm telling you, in the biblical sense, I'm standing with Israel no matter what. That's what it says to do. The curses thee that curses Israel. Blesses ye that blesses Israel. Hey, stand up for Israel, because I guarantee you, all those people that are carrying around the Palestinian flag and they're marching on the streets, gays for Palestine. Well, guess what?
You know what they would do to
You would
them
be
over
the
there?
first ones that had your daggum head chopped off.
They,
Sorry, thanks for your support. Here's your head.
I mean,
That's
you're
that's
exactly
way.
right. That's exactly what happened to him. And I'm tired of listening to the college campuses on there and Biden trying to have them ease off. I'm like, man, take the leash off of them. I mean, those people did. I mean, rain terror down on these people, and eventually you kill enough of them, they're gonna stop.
Well, see, that's why you see a reduction in the amount of stuff going to Israel. For example, we said that we'll support Israel, but you don't see a whole lot of money or anything else going over to Israel. There's not a whole lot of funding there, right? But Ukraine is total. They're putting so much into it. And let me explain something to you. Israel has bought stuff from us all the time they kept on buying stuff from us. We're one of their biggest allies, and we supply them with a lot of our capabilities, and they have a lot of their own technology that they come up with.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So, but we sell them a lot, say aircraft and stuff like that. Now, look over to Ukraine. All right. They are not part of our allyship. We've never done any training over there. We've never, and they were never part of NATO. So that was part of the agreements. We wouldn't be over there. Well, they could have still bought stuff from us, but did they? No. Did they ever supply their stuff from, say, Russia, from their old, outdated stuff that they already had? No, because they've been a corrupt government, just like Russia's government is corrupt as hell, too. That's why they ended up getting stopped the way they did. But it was a corrupt, it was a corrupt system, and we had corrupt politicians here in our nation that was dealing with those corrupt individuals over there in Ukraine. But needless to say, when crap hit the fan, and they didn't have enough to do hardly anything. They had limited amounts, and they've raised hell with those guys. But we are supplying massive amounts of equipment and everything else, and we've had so many companies over here prospering like crazy. And I have nothing against businesses prospering, but when you're propping up a situation that has no end point, what are we doing? This isn't an Afghanistan thing again. Since what since what I'm sorry.
No, you're fine.
Since we left Afghanistan, all of a sudden that money pocket, that money thing is not there anymore. So guess what? They fall into another one. They see that happening. Well, guess what? We're going to invest all our money into Ukraine. And my opponent, Mike Rodgers, is constantly supporting Ukraine, sending $600 million to Ukraine. Holy crap. I'm sorry.
I
We've
bet I can
already
guess
spent
who his
a
donors
fortune
are.
over there. And if they ain't got the equipment that they need, maybe somebody needs to look into what they are actually getting for their buck. You know what I'm saying?
I'm following each other, and I bet I can guess who his major donors are too. If I,
Yeah.
was to look. Let me ask you. You're talking about money right there. We've talked about threats. Why are we in a situation, or how do we ever get in a situation where we're sending $600 million to places like Ukraine or wherever when we
Let
have
me tell you
people
something.
living in
I
the
want to mention
streets?
something real quick.
Yeah, go right ahead.
The money that we have spent on Ukraine, we could have had every person that's homeless into a home. It
Right.
might have been a tiny home, but with the money that we spent in Ukraine, that's what we could have had. We could have had a system to where there wasn't a single homeless person on a single street. That's what we've spent our money on. That's what we keep funding. Why do
That's
we?
always
Okay,
bothering me. Why are we wasting our money over there when we got people that are hungry? Kids that don't even don't the only meal they get is at school, and we're worried about other countries instead of we don't take care of our
the
own.
money that we spent over there, we could have had a home for every homeless person and secured our daggum border from Mexico. We could have done that. We could have probably been starting on a border in Canada if we wanted to. But no, we want to spend our money on freaking these never ending wars, because we have warmongers that are sitting up there in Congress, or not even in Congress. They're people on the outside that are pushing these war efforts because they are investing money into these companies that are benefiting from this greatly. Now, these companies were always benefiting from our military buying new modern technology, or buying stuff for the war efforts that we were in, and they made massive amounts of money, and there's nothing wrong with that. But then all of a sudden you pull out of one war and you start funding another one. that is almost insane. Do you know how much of the Ukraine is just totally lost? Now, if we there was a lot of preventions that could have happened that stretched back to what 2012 or 2014 that could prevented all this
Something
from
like that.
happening. When Donald Trump was in office, he put a stop to this. You know, they could not finish that pipeline. If you remember, that was supplying
Hmm.
natural gas to Europe. The only pipelines they had was through Ukraine. That's the reason they took over Crimea when Obama was in office, because he was a weak president. All right. Some say he's still in office right now. You know, they just got a old fart playing the role.
Yeah.
But needless to say, either which way, Obama was in office. They took over Crimea. They didn't even fire a single shot, and they took over Crimea. Now, it wasn't just because of Obama. It was because they had their puppet president in charge of Ukraine also. So that helped along with this process. But that was their reason for Crimea, was so they could get a pipeline around Ukraine up into Europe and supplying all the natural gas and everything else they needed. Well, once that was taken care of, was Donald Trump came in and they stopped that, and they wouldn't allow them to continue that pipeline. That prevented them from doing anything. As soon as Biden comes in and he allows them to finish that pipeline, well, guess what? What do they need Ukraine for anymore? They don't need them anymore. Well, guess what? All they want to do is have a pathway all the way into Crimea so they don't have to go across the bridge. All right. That was the only way into Crimea, was through a bridge. Now you have a land base around the edge that goes into Crimea. So it's it's better access for supplying Crimea, which at the time was like the resort area of that part of the world right there.
I
It was
was
like the
aware of that.
resort. It was the ritzy spots. That's where all
That's why.
the
Okay.
bigwigs lived at, you know? So needless
Okay.
to say, that's why they needed that. There was also a oil reserve off the shore in Crimea that they wanted. So you got oil reserves there, and then in the do not that top portion, that top eastern portion of Ukraine is also another oil deposit area. So either which way, they're trying to, they were trying to capture all the oil parts of Ukraine at the same time of being able to, and if they could take all of Ukraine, that would be even better, because then they would have a new that they would be able to do whatever they needed to do up there.
So, you mentioned a while ago, let me touch on the border. Man, what do we need to do down there? I was talking to somebody running for Congress the other day, and he said something that was I actually kind of liked. He said not only he wanted to build the wall, he wanted to deploy the guard, and he wanted to take the fight to the cartels. I mean, instead of
Well, on
allowing
my
them to get over
website,
here.
I've got that listed on there as one of the things that we needed to do, is list the Mexican drug cartels as a terrorist organization. All right.
Some of them answer.
What is
Is
that?
that not the same thing? I mean,
So
are
what
they
that
not?
does is, we're not going to be able to jump into going out there with a drone and knocking the cartels out of business without the permission of Mexico. That's just not going to happen. But what it does allow you to do is seize assets. You seize assets, and you're able to trace all these money laundering groups and take this funding out of them. You're also you're using the military assets and the military intelligence to be able to pinpoint where these drugs and everything else can be coming across the border when it happens. And then you have the military assets to prevent them as soon as they cross over the border, being able to apprehend those people. Do you understand what I'm saying? Now,
Exactly.
okay. Now, if we were authorized Then, with them being listed as a terrorist organization, we'd be able to, send a drone over, drop a, something into their living room, you know, and take them off the face of the earth, which really needs to happen. But until you get let's just say officials in the Mexican government that's not being paid by the cartel, because the cartel are stronger than the military government as it is in Mexico. And if you look at the if you take an overlay, let's just say you take an overlay map of Afghanistan and you place it over Mexico, or you take Mexico's overlay and put it on top of Afghanistan, you'll find something very, very familiar. They are both alike. You have a government in the south, you have a mountain regions in the middle, and you basically have two accesses on either side of the mountain range to get to those to where the cartel is living at. You know,
Interesting.
so there is no way that the government on its own, with all the people that are paid off by them, are going to be able to take over the cartel. And they are basically free access to us. Now, they are using those underground tunnels and everything else. And there are ways that our military probably already knows where all these tunnels are at. But destroying them is not it doesn't seem to be a very high priority in their operations right now. Now, there's a lot of conspiracy theories about that I'm not going to even get into, because it's ridiculous. I would want to say it. Me being in the military as long as I am, I would try to lean against that, because it will never be corroborated. To be able to say that that's definitely happening, but. But there's a lot of things that could be done that we are not operating with our full capacity right now. Listing them as a terrorist organization is one. Hamas was listed as a terrorist organization in about 2 weeks. Why we haven't listed the cartel after all these years as a terrorist organization, I have no idea why. So needless to say, there's got to be a reason in there, and it kind of
Okay,
points
what was that
right
last
to the
part you
top
said?
of
I
it.
had a phone call come in and it blocks it out. You said you know the reasoning of what?
I'm sorry, what was that?
What was that last part you said? A phone call came in and it blocked you out. I heard all I heard was you said, I don't know the reasoning why.
Yeah, I don't have we listed Hamas as a terrorist organization in about 2 weeks. Why we haven't listed the cartel after all these years as a terrorist organization, I have no idea why.
Yeah,
You
because I
know,
was just thinking about that the other day. Are they not akin to a terrorist organization? I mean, to me, they
we've
should be
lost over
classified.
a, we've lost over 100,000 people to fentanyl alone.
A
So
100,000?
100,000. So what
Wow.
how many do you have to be how many do you have to lose to be listed as a terrorist organization?
I
How
did
many
not
Americans?
realize that there had
Now,
been a hundred
now
thousand Americans
granted,
lost over that.
I have I have, a lot of these people stepped into this situation, losing children to fentanyl for one reason or another, you know, and the people have to go out there and remember, you need to talk to your kids, to prevent a lot of these kids from getting into that stuff. But whenever you have individuals that are on fentanyl and stuff like that, it's a dangerous society.
Isn't it like a respiratory drug or something?
um Fentanyl is used like for men, for example. Whenever you go in for a colonoscopy, you will be given fentanyl. All right. Now, fentanyl in your system, it reacts to where your mind is conscious, meaning you can carry on a conversation, not very great, but you can carry on a conversation and you kind of know what's going on, but you will not remember it later.
Okay.
And you
Because
do not feel anything, and your body's not moving.
my uncle was in the hospital about a year ago, and they was giving him fentanyl, and I almost had.
Hey, I lost you. I lost your.
He's a UA,
Okay,
he was a
now.
individual. Like I was like, this is not, grade D fentanyl that's coming from China. These doctors know what they're doing, man. Just relax on this. Um,
Yeah.
so I said, that's how much I knew about it. I didn't know the effects it actually had on the body. So let me shift gears here to you with something else. Um, what are we going to do about um the rising inflation that just seems like every time I go to the store, more and more costs
Okay.
cost more. I mean, you can't get out of the grocery store for $100 and you don't have anything.
Well, you go back and what caused what caused all this inflation? Okay, well, you could go and say Biden. That would be the easy way of saying it, but it goes along with our oil industry. All right, some of the things going along with the oil industry that we have to watch out for is losing control of the dollar. Now, based on oil, right? For decades and decades and decades, the dollar has been, when they talk about the price of oil per barrel, it's
Mm-hmm.
in dollar cents. All right. There's like 30 countries that's trying to break away from the dollar being used as a currency for the barrels of oil. All right. China's one of them. And there's some of those countries that already broke away from that. But if you break away from the U.S. being the dominant source of the price per barrel of oil, our dollar system drops down drastically. The price of the dollar. All right. Now, another thing is oil capabilities. We are not drilling as much, we are not bringing in as much, and we are not supplying as much. We were energy independent as of the last administration.
Yes.
We were selling oil. We were selling natural gas. We were selling liquefied natural gas to to Europe. But now, all of a sudden, all of that stops. So guess what? What we're bringing in is not as much as we are sending out. When we have $600 million a pop going over to Ukraine, we got money supplying our military industry and our military capabilities. We've got money going out to every negligent grant going out to all these stupid research facilities. When you got money, $8 billion and trying to go up to $29 billion going out to these science organizations, and then all of a sudden the administration puts out, supplying all this money to STEM, science, technology, so and so, right? Well, guess what? All the funding is going to those. So whenever these research facilities and universities are talking about research into anything to do with science, it's automatically granted. So we give $28 million to the science foundations, and then guess what? They give it out negligently to all these research facilities, all these universities that are doing stupid research that have no ROI, return on investment of for our nation. Nothing. The Panamanian tree frogs, mating calls. If country frogs are different than city frogs, how does that benefit our nation? How does that benefit our country? How does that benefit our state? How does it benefit our our district? How does it benefit the people? It does not, but it benefits that research facility. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah. Well, I mean, because when I'm thinking of research, I'm thinking of like cancer and stuff like that.
That's
Yeah,
great. That's
I didn't
awesome.
even, I didn't even think about that when you said that, and then it dawned on me about some of the other things that these places are researching.
$374 million. This was now I'm going with 2018 model here.
Right.
$374 million going out to negligent government spending.
So
374 million
what I'm getting is, listen to
in
you
one
speak
year.
here. You're wanting to cut out us wasting money, that we're just
Yes.
throwing good money after bad, and that's just destroying.
If a research facility is, see, it kind of takes it out of our hands. We give it to the NSH or something like that, the
Mhm.
National Science Foundation or something like that, right? And I'm sorry, I'm not having all my my names just correctly, but
No, you're fine.
they get the funding from the U.S. government. The U.S.
Mhm.
government, I think it was at $8 billion, and now it went up. They wanted to move it all the way to 28 billion. All right, that's B with a B. All right, now they get that funding. Now they're the ones that are in charge, that all these research facilities and stuff call them to grant them money for that whatever research they're doing. You see what I'm saying? And as long as it has something to do with science, it's getting granted.
um, Speaking on these same terms of money, um, back in the 50s or whatever, my grandfather, he took care of a family of four on a paycheck, and now we've got family of four, and four paychecks can't make it. Clinton signing NAFTA single-handedly destroyed our middle class. I think 60,000 factories closed that were good-paying jobs. What, if anything, can we do to bring back a healthy middle class in America, where the where we don't have so many people living in poverty? I mean,
Um,
I, I bet half of America couldn't lay their hands on $1,000 if they needed it for an emergency right now.
you're absolutely right. Bringing the price of the dollar, that's going to benefit greatly. All right. When you get back to being energy independent in our our what do you call it? Our I'm sorry, I'm losing words here. Our interest rates drop
Oh,
back
it's your
down
place.
to being normal. Okay, well that's where you start seeing the prices at the grocery store dropping. All right, we had, there's still got to do some checks on that, but right now the fuel is so high, the shipping is so high. They still kept those rates pretty high for a lot of these, just normal items are still out there. A lot of things have dropped down in price. Let's just say toilet paper, for example. I remember when it was skyrocketing, because of the supply and demand. That's the way our system works, is off supply and demand. Once you have once you have the supply system down and it is transporting like you're supposed to, people are able to transport stuff without the government interfering with that. There was a lot of interference with trucks coming from California due to there was some kind of issue they had with the trucking industry. I can't place it right now, but it placed a lot of truckers out of business. Like they couldn't ship from
I remember that.
California anymore. You remember? So, needless to say, all of those things included. And when you have incompetency, let's just say Buttigieg is in charge of transportation, and then a Biden administration that climate change and the green initiative is where his pathway is. Well, guess what? And then cutting down all the oil. Well, guess what? Our price of the dollar is sucking. All right. It sucks. Our transportation system sucks. Well, guess what? Everything else is going to suck along with it. And so you're going to have to go back to the previous administration's starting point where they ended at, and then move yourself backwards. And one of them is our spending that what we're doing. You know, it was always known that conservatives spent less, always tried to cut cost and everything else. And the Democrats always like to spend. But right now, there's hardly any congressmen that aren't exactly like each other in there. Democrat, Republican alike, they're all spending on needless stuff. Now, I want you to take this for example. You have a pitcher of water. All right. This is going along with our negligent spending. We lose billions this way. It's called use it or lose it. That's how the government is funding itself. And it's been funding this way for decades and in decades. All right, you have a pitch. Let's just say this is let's make this real easy here. All right. Sorry about this illustration here, but this is the only way to put it. All right. All right. This is your government funding, and this is every individual unit in the military. It's all the departments in the government, right? All right. Every year, they spend a little bit of they spend a little bit of money. Spend. All right. All right. At the end of the year, in August and September, if they do not use the money that's allotted to them every year, they do not get the funding the following year. So every August and September, they're spending every single bit of it. Every bit of it. So the government can come back around and fill it all the way back up. All right. Now, what makes better sense? Doing it that way, or you just spend. Okay. All of a sudden, at the end of the year, the government comes along and taps it off. It tops it off, so you don't have to spend that money like an idiot in August and September to extinguish all the funds. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah.
Which one makes more sense? Well, guess what? When did they enact this? Well, I've talked to a lot of people. This has been going on for before the daggum pre-Vietnam War. It's been doing that way. It's basically the way that they could track supplying all the government without having the technology that we have today. And we've stayed with that system all these years. They use that term, if it ain't broken, don't fix it, Well, yeah. I'm sorry, this system is broken. They just don't know it. Because they've been they are a part of the system. They are part of the people that are taking money from the system. So that's why they can't see it. You see what I'm saying? They can't see it's broken because they are part of the people who is taking money from that system. Not no fault of their own, but they're not seeing that concept. So there's a lot better ways of spending the money inside our government instead of the way that's happening right now. And we have all the technology that you need to keep that going. But we're also sending out more money than we're bringing in. So that's not effective. Our whole system right now is spending is not effective either. When you have congressional earmarks going out that are overinflated, well, guess what? That is not effective either. Back in, I've been talking about this for a long period of time, but back in October the 4th, Jesse Waters did a thing. He was talking about the port that are going inside bills, and that's automatic funding for those. Once that bill is passed and it's signed off, all that port gets paid. So when you have port like $3 million for a let's just say it's infrastructure bill, and you got $3 million going for a playground to get built, but it only costs $60,000 to build that playground, or $7 million for a park. It's like, holy crap, are you smoking crack? This is ridiculous, and we're spending that money like it's crazy. And you wonder why we have the problems that we have right now is because of things like that. And these congressmen now, they're not, they're putting the pork in there, but it's on request.
Have you ever been to Locust Fork?
Locust Fork? No.
Mm-hmm. A small little town, maybe 2 miles wide. Then this Build Back Better, whatever it was, they spent $700,000 on a sidewalk that's on the side of a rural country road?
What was the reasoning behind it? Was there
I,
a bunch of handicapped people that lived there or something?
there's a Jack's, a Burger King, a gas station, two gas stations, and a school.
Well, I
And
know
they,
with Jack's being there, I know there was a lot of elderly there. There's,
yeah, there's a lot of elderly, but they
they
would
had
have
to
had
get
to
up there
walk.
on. They had to get to Jack's in the morning.
They'd have had to walk, 3 miles to get there. And
Yeah.
they built this thing, and they called it, well, we're going to be the 5 Mile Club. We're going to come out here and walk every night. Well, where this sidewalk starts, there's a track that goes 5 miles. I mean, I'm going to write an article called "The Sidewalks of Nowhere," but that's kind of money. I mean, I've got that. I mean, I swear it goes. Sidewalks where people park their cars and walk from business to business to business. There's no businesses. It's just like putting a sidewalk out in the middle of nowhere. And it was $700,000 that you could spend on anything else, and it boggles my mind that they did
You
that.
know
And
why? Do you know why? There was the contractor who got that.
that's the next thing when I'm going to follow up. I'm going to follow up who signed off on this and who built it, because somebody got the
Well,
contractors.
whoever, more than likely, whoever was the contractor on that one, you can trace it back to who his congressman is, and
Well,
you can probably see if there was an earmark request or if it was pork inside a bill, infrastructure bill, or something like that.
Well, I don't know if you just seen what happened a couple months ago here in the House, where I can't remember, Fred Plum and John Rogers, they got allocated $400,000 to build a baseball field, and they hired Fred Plum's company to do it, and paid him $200,000, and then they kept the other 200.
No, no, I didn't see that.
Yeah, four of them went down there. So just a couple more quick questions. I know you're a busy man. Um, what distinguishes you from your opponent that you want people to know? Because I'm just going to say this. I don't care if he hears it. There was an instance a few years ago. A constituent asked him about him and his wife taking money from something, and he told the guy, "Hey, why don't you take it outside?" He grabbed Congressman Gates by the face on the floor. Yeah, I just think somebody should maintain their military bearing, so to speak, and we don't need somebody losing their cool over stuff like that.
Especially going toward another Republican. Yeah, that's why you had that one congressman stating on there. It's even on Wikipedia. You shouldn't be drinking on the House floor when you're a redneck from Alabama. That's one of the problems right there. But see, what happens is, you want to know what distinguishes me from them. All right. First of all, I'm a retired Army combat veteran. I served my country for over 22 years. I deployed to Iraq and Afghanistan multiple times. I swore to defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic. That's the one thing. All right. The second thing is military people. We find we identify a problem. We determine a solution and we go and accomplish the mission. All right. When you don't have those values set in front of you with being able to have leadership abilities, teamwork experience, and work experience, well, guess what? You are handicapped in those positions. All right. What is the definition of leadership? Persuading individuals to accomplish a mission by providing motivation and direction and a purpose. All right, that is what we do as military leaders. And guess what? If you cannot do that up there in Congress, well, guess what? You're worthless. All right. So these people, I'm telling you, a lot of them are worthless up there. They might have started off with with great ideas, what they were going to do, but they found out they ran into a brick wall and they have no determination on how to get around it. Accomplishing a mission. All right, seeing a problem and identifying it. In 2015, I was assigned to Fort Eustis, Virginia. I thought they were sending the horse out to the pasture, retirement coming up or something. But no, they had other ideas for me. They said, we're bringing the aviation hydraulics course from Fort Rucker, Alabama. We're moving it to Fort Eustis, Virginia. And I was there to help stand it up. So I was, when we had a meeting all together with the other instructors when they arrived, I was talking to them and I was like, 17 years ago, we had an issue. We went to this course and it was broken. I say we didn't learn anything. We had to learn it when we got to our unit. So the system was broken. We always said, somebody's got to fix this. I said, when we became leaders later on, we realized when our soldiers would come to us, we realized the system was still broken. And we always said, somebody's got to fix this. I said, now it's in our hands and we're going to be the somebody that fixes this. So we rewrote every lesson plan. We rewrote every training module and every hands-on exercise. We brought in the foreign course. We brought in the advanced leaders course. And when we launched, TRADOC was amazed. So to this day, I'm known as one of the founding fathers of the Army Aviation Hydraulics course at Fort Eustis, Virginia, because we identified a problem, we came up with a solution, and we accomplished a mission. We fixed a 17-year problem in 9 months. That is what I'm trying to do for this country now. Fix as many things as I can in a short period of time, then pave a path forward for the next person that's got the same abilities, the same initiative, and the same drive that I've got that could carry the torch even further. But, a lot of those things are written down there. Term limits. The Mexican drug cartel listed as a terrorist organization, signing the Pelosi Act, stop this negligent spending that we've got. Those are just, and then the Alabama Rural Improvement Program that would require, you go through rural Alabama and you see these houses that look like nobody should be even living there. The weeds are grown up all the way up to your neck. The porch is falling in, the roof's leaking when it rains. Well, and you find out that there's somebody living there, somebody that's elderly, somebody that's got a physical disability, somebody that's financially unable to do anything about it. That is what I'm talking about. My parents used to do these little mission trips with the church, and they go out and they would fix these things. I remember helping my dad with a wheelchair ramp up this lady's house. And these are the things that I'm talking about. Taking those things and running it through a nonprofit agency, a church, or anything else, and being able to fix these people's minor problems of maybe patching the roof on the house, maybe fixing a little plumbing problem that's leaking onto their floor, or landscaping the front and the backyard to where they can actually walk outside without getting snake bit, or maybe fix the banister around their porch, or put a wheelchair ramp up to their porch. Those are the things that or maybe even paint the house, but it beautifies the area. At the same time, it provides something nice for these individuals that cannot afford it, or they are physically unable to do it, to be able to go out maybe on their front porch and breathe in a nice air and be happy of what they've got that the Lord granted them.
Wow, that is a great idea. You don't ever hear people talk about going out and trying to help people like that.
I could supply the system with $600 million. I could supply that for 600 freaking years of doing that. That is what I'm talking about. We have $1.5 million. You know how much it would be able to start funding that and start those projects? $1.5 million. That would be a donation from each individual when they fill out their taxes. Every person that's working, they could donate $1 and supply that system. But I would be willing to take that $1.5 million earmark to start the system off. And then you have a website run by that nonprofit agency that's showing every project and every receipt for every one of those, so every person who's donating $1 can see where that dollar is going to.
I like that. People because they're not held accountable.
See, the church has got the blueprint. The churches have the blueprint. All we have to do is expand that out. That's all. The churches have been doing it for years, but they are only taking donations from the individuals that are inside their church to be able to do this. We're talking about all of Alabamians donating to this. We're talking about all Americans being able to donate to something like this. And then if the blueprint works and it's working right here in Alabama, well, guess what? Texas, Arkansas, Mississippi, they could take the same blueprint and work it in their state.
So, tough question here for you. You're from the area, running as a candidate with a lot of name recognition, and a lot of money. How do you overcome that?
I don't. I don't overcome. I'm going to have diversity. I work through diversity. That's not the problem. Yeah, I do need a lot of funds to be able to, let's just say, yard signs. The yard signs and the road signs and stuff like that. To continue on with the gas going to all these places that I go to. The good Lord has provided me, and these are the prayers that I prayed, and He's provided me the less stress of the situation. If I was in this position 5 years ago, I'd be running around like a chicken with my head cut off. I wouldn't know which way to turn, but right now, He's provided me with a lot of calmness, all right, to be able to work through a lot of these situations. So yes, I've been using my own money for a lot of this stuff. There's no doubt, there's no doubts about that. You can look on FEC reports, and there's not going to be a whole lot to put in there if I have anything to put in there. But needless to say, those situations like that build character, and they show you the determination of what it takes to go out there and accomplish a mission. I am not going to be wasting my time and my money and my resources to run for something that I have no intention of winning. Do you understand what I'm saying? This
Yes,
is
sir.
me. This is me going out there to win. This is me showing you the determination of what I can accomplish when I've got the good Lord on my side. If I win this thing, with with limited money, can you imagine the understanding people have of the strength of the good Lord? Now, I cannot say that He wants me to win this. I cannot say that. This was a leap of faith. So maybe He wanted me to learn something and stay in politics, but run in a different office. I don't know. But whatever it is, I'm going out there to win the Republican nomination and the 3rd Congressional District of Alabama. That is what I
You
am
believe you're
going
going to win
out
this
there to
race?
do. Now, I would love to be able to have some of the money to be able to pay for these yard signs and road signs that I've got to put up. I would love to have those donations come into my website and be able to help me out a little bit. But unfortunately, when it comes to even though I have a lot of support from so many people that are thankful that I'm out there, there's a big difference when you live in a rural district. I'd have to say, because we don't have no Birmingham or Montgomerys in my district. But needless to say, whenever you're running in a district like that, there's a lot of support. But yet, I am running in. Look at this. I am running in during Christmas and New Year's. I'm sorry. There's a lot of people who are not willing to donate to a not so sure thing, and then you
Exactly.
take it. And then you take the consideration of, oh, look at our economy right now. It sucks. Look at the situation right now. So people are spending all their money for Thanksgiving, paying the bills or barely paying the bills. And, that is not one of the priorities on their list. So needless to say, well, I can't make people donate. I have had a few people donate, but I have not had a lot, and I can't force them to. But people have got to stand up and realize, I'd rather have their vote than their money. But at the same time, it sure helps getting my voice out there when I have a little bit of money to work with.
So I'm going to ask you one last question, and I'll let you go because you had to get another national star. Um, if there's one thing and that you want to leave an impression with the voters, what would that be?
I am not a complacent guy. I am not a person who's willing to stay there forever. I am not a guy who's even going to make it to my what I'm requesting as term limits for Congress, or what term limits are up there in Congress right now that has not been brought out on the floor for a vote yet. But I will be asking for those things to be brought out on the floor for a vote, even if I know it's going to get canceled, because at least we have the identification of every freaking guy that's in Congress right now that votes against those two items. All right. Number two, getting these things started. That's what needs to happen. It's not going to have my name on those situations. It's not going to have, but I'm trying to fix those problems that we have. Most of them are not rocket science to fix those things. It just takes somebody with a little bit of cojones to go out there and try to accomplish these things. If I cannot, I will bow out. I have no problem of bowing out after maybe 2 terms if I have not accomplished a single item. You know, I'd be like, okay, there's nothing that I can do here. I am bowing out. You understand what I'm saying?
Yes, sir.
That's what it takes. If I am not effective up there, well, guess what? I will bow myself out and say, I am sorry to Alabama. I have failed at 2 years, but guess what? It's been failing for 22 years. It has not been accomplished. Nothing has been accomplished for us. Do you understand that?
Yes, sir.
People to have nothing to lose with voting me in there and seeing what could actually happen when you have somebody that's got leadership abilities, somebody that's got teamwork abilities, somebody that's got the ways of being able to accomplish a mission. And that has that blue collar work experience. That's what you need up there. You don't need it down here. The people down here don't need that. That's where it's needed, is up in Congress. Down here, we need a voice. I'm willing to be that voice for the people here in Alabama. That's what I want to leave everybody with. When you read The Voice on my website, you'll see what I'm talking about. Being able to have an office to where it's got an open Zoom conference call to where somebody can walk into my office, go into that room, and then they can talk to me one-on-one, just like we're talking to each other on Zoom right now. And we can talk to each other face to face while I'm up in Washington, D.C., and they're down here in Alabama. That is what I'm talking about, being a voice in Congress. How many congressmen are doing that right now? There's not a single one of them.
That's a strong message right now. I can definitely see the Army coming out in you when the way you deliver.
Sorry, the former drill comes out of me.
You was a drill.
Yeah.
Okay, I didn't know that. I didn't know you. I can see that now. I can for sure see that. You just didn't get too much of the voice inflection. Let me ask you a question. As you said that, it's all totally off topic, and sorry to keep you so long, but what did you think about the new policy where they did away with the shark attacks, where they can't get up and yell in the recruits' faces anymore, and I just think we're building a weak military doing that kind of stuff.
Well, drills, we always understood what our limitations were. That's the first thing, is know what your limitations are. All right. But you have to build a rapport with the soldiers themselves.
Say that again. The fog came in. You said we drills, and then it cut out. I'm sorry about that.
I said we drills. We understand what the limitations are, and trust me, we go all the way up to and we just don't ever break it. But the key thing to that is being able to build rapport with those soldiers. You will never be able to accomplish anything if you do not have the rapport with them and them understanding who they're who their leadership is. Do you understand what I'm saying? That is
Absolutely.
the way it works. That is the way leadership works. They will not. I had a prime example. There was I went on leave one day, and I had soldiers there, and this other drill came, and he took my spot for those 2 weeks I was on leave or whatever. And
Well, those act reserve drill sergeants.
no, it was just another one that didn't have a cycle in.
Okay.
All right, so he took over, and he had like 3 complaints against him by the time I got back. And I was like, nothing major, it wasn't nothing like sexual harassment or nothing, but it was, it was startling, and what I found out was some of the things he said, I'd said things that was far worse, but I already had rapport with the soldiers, so they
Right.
never took it offensively. You understand what I'm saying? They
Yes,
took
I
it
understand exactly what you're saying.
correctively, or they took it in a humorous way, one or the other, but they never took offense to it. With him, they didn't know him. He wasn't with them from the beginning,
Right.
so they took offense to it right from the start,
Right.
so it was like, holy crap, But
Yeah.
needless to say, that is what I'm talking about. You've got to build rapport. And that's what I'm trying to do, is build a rapport with my district, to let them understand that's what it takes to be able to accomplish things inside our government, is building rapport with them. At the same time, you do not give up your values that you stand firm on. You
I
cannot
love
give those up to a
it.
lobbyist. You cannot give them up to another congressman. You can only stand firm to your values and being able to accomplish a mission for your district and your country and your state.
I love your message, man. I hope you're getting it. I hope you can reach enough people with it. Um, I love the delivery. I can definitely see the drill sergeant coming out in you on that. I mean, I can hear the passion that you really believe what you say, and you want to see the betterment for the country.
Well, that's the only thing that you can do. That's all that you've got. That's all that I have is my voice, and that's what I'm trying to let people know, that there's actually somebody that has passion. That's what we're lacking in Congress, is the passion to accomplish something that'll benefit our country or our nation or our district, in which they have no passion for. They are only passionate about what is keeping them in Congress. And I'm trying to go out there and say, I am not trying to go out there and go blow for blow with Mike Rodgers and try to, go, say bad things or anything like that. But what I am trying to do is let people know that there is a better option out there than what they've been dealing with for the past 20 plus years. It's not any beneficial, because they have become complacent. When somebody sits in a certain position for a long time, and I'm not talking about people that move from Congress to Senate and maybe to president, whatever. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about people that sit in Congress for 20, 30, 40, 50 years. Same thing for Senate. If you sit in the Senate seat 20, 30, 40, 50 years, you get complacent. Look at Kamala. Holy crap. Look at Joe Biden. Holy crap. Both of them
Yeah.
sat in that Senate seat for how long? And guess what? It didn't do them a damn bit of good. They're still complacent pieces of crap that have no leadership abilities and no passion to go out there and accomplish a mission for the country. All they care about is their padding their pocketbook, maybe. I'm just saying, that's where you have a problem. And that's what we need to fix. That's what the Soviet Union's problem was. All the oligarchs run different things in the organization of the Soviet Union as far as military assets go. And guess what? Every single one of them was corrupt. They were taking money off the top of it, and all of a sudden Russia finds out as soon as they invade Ukraine, holy crap, our shit is blowing up. Holy crap, that's what happens. When complacency goes into it, it starts blowing up. That's what's happening with our country from within. It is blowing up in front of us. And we're not smart enough to understand that people need to get off their ass, run for something to try to fix something. You know, when somebody asked the same situation, it was like, why are you running for Congress? So I was like, if not me, then who? If not now, then when? This is what we have to face. It's not going to fix itself. Ignore it, it'll go away. It ain't going to go away. We've got to fix it right now. I don't think our country can last much longer with the situation in which we find ourselves.
Well, Bryan, I think that's all the questions I've got.
Hey, something happened with your mute or something. Nope.
Turn this phone off when I'm doing this. Anyway, I might figure out how to. Yeah, I might have to do something to figure out to turn my phone off during these meetings because I'm getting 100 calls a day right now. But I was saying it was a pleasure getting to interview you. You got a strong message. I hope you can get it out to enough people. I'm going to write an article on you, and I'll send that information over to you.
Okay.
For Brandon, and I really appreciate you letting me talk to you.
I want to let some other people know that I have a have a podcast that I do every Thursday. It's Patriot for Congress.
Patriots for Congress.
Yeah, so if they want to, if they've got a business and they want to do some advertisement with that, if they want to go to my website and put a donation at Bryan, the number 4 Congress.com, that's BRYAN, not I, but BRYAN. The number 4 Congress.com, they can do it that way.
Okay.
Either which way is going to help supply this little process that I'm taking, that I'm spending pretty much my own money on, and allow me to continue the fight on. So
just keep getting out there amongst the people, man, and spreading the message.
I've hit every watermelon festival, car show, little menus, little street menus, the street carnivals that they have, like in Ashland and over there in Talladega. I've hit the rodeos, the Cattleman's rodeo. I've done that. I've gone out to Walmart's, Publix, and handing out my cards, to all these different people passing by. I've done just about.
I remember you go to those Jacks and McDonald's in the morning now.
Yeah, I remember you giving me that information the other day, and I'm definitely going to end up doing it. So, hey, I appreciate the heads up again.
Okay. All right, Bryan. Thanks a lot, man, and good luck in this race.
All right, you have a good one.
You too, buddy.
All right, bye.